Okay.
Okay, once again, I ask, is this sidebar with people's faces on it showing on your screens also? I mean, at over top of my slides?
It's on mine.
Yeah, I
It's not
think
on top of your slides, it's adjacent to.
Okay, I can deal with that.
Okay.
Okay, I need to give you some disclaimers here. The first is I am not a good speaker. I'll go, I'll dash back and forth between points. Um, I won't give you many variety names. Most of the time, you'll see things in catalogs. You can find variety names there. Um, I am going to start out with some obvious truths to this group. Amaryllids, members of the Amaryllis family, are uh, possessed of a very nasty tasting sap, and some people are actually allergic to daffodil sap. Um, because of this, nothing that has fur will take more than one little bite of it. And now Lynn has um, a bulb fly, daffodil bulb fly. I have not had a problem with that. Hopefully, it does not spread. Um, that's the only thing I know that actually attacks the Amaryllis family. Uh, Amaryllis family, by and large, daffodils being the glaring exception, do not they don't have annual roots the way a tulip does. They have perennial roots, and they do not like those roots drying out. And I'll make this point on Lycoris, I'll make it on snowdrops. Uh, you do not want those roots to dry out, nor do you want to plant them deeply. And the reason is all of the amaryllids have contractile roots. They can dig themselves deeper to where they want to be. If you plant them too deep, they're going to sulk or they may simply croak. And again, I found this out when I did plant some Lycoris too deep. Lynn had put me in touch with a lady down in Alabama, and she just dug them. And part of them had been where they'd been planted and they grew, and then later Earth went over them again. And what they had done is they had sent up a shoot and started a new bulb above the old bulb. And I do not
Crocosmia will do
recommend
that
this.
too.
Pardon?
Crocosmia will do that too.
Ah, um, yeah, but they have corms. I would expect them to do that. Anyway, um, you can, the point I'm trying to make in this talk is that with enough pests to have what I'm going to show you, you can have amaryllis blooms almost every last day of the year. Right now, under a sleet storm being or a snowstorm being the obvious exception to that. We start out with planting. Again, plant shallow if you aren't sure. Err on the side of shallow. They say don't use fresh manure on bulbs. I am very lucky. I've got a source of composted old manure, and I use that quite heavily. But if you worry, take just a handful of regular soil, put in the hole just below the bulb. By the time the roots get down there, the uh, the composted manure will have aged. This is showing me planting not bulbs, but yes, bulbs, but marking the place between varieties until they come up um, with annual dianthus, and pansies in the 8-pack worked well too. Uh, dianthus last all through the summer in those little packs. Get them, and the pansies when they're being remnanted, where they're like a dollar a pack, and you can't go wrong. But it shows me where I've stopped, so when I get up, and come back the next day. I don't put my trowel in and hear that chunk where you know you've just bisected a bulb. That's possibly the most horrible sound I've ever heard. We start
Jim,
out.
Jim,
Hmm?
are you showing slides? Because all I see is your face.
Yes, he is.
Then I think you just need to change your view. And
Okay,
on my
so
computer, it's
what
on the
view do I
top.
want? I have speaker, which shows him, and
I
I
did,
have
I like side by side speaker. Choose that one.
multi-speaker. Is that what you want?
No,
No,
I
I'm
mean,
still not seeing it. I see lots of faces. Hi, Steve. Hi, Mary. And I see your screen and Jim, but I don't see slides.
well, is there a one name standard?
Try getting rid of. Can you get rid of the sidebar that shows faces?
No.
I don't have that sidebar.
Do you have
So,
a view option at the top somewhere, a tiny little thing that says view?
Yes, I do.
It's a drop down.
Yes.
And do you have a side by side option of any kind?
It says speaker, gallery, multi-speaker, hide self-view, hide non-video participants, show meeting timers, and full screen.
just click on some of those and see which one gives you the view you want.
There ought to be standard, side by side speaker, side by side gallery, anything like that will work. There are little symbols that look.
Yes, I see that, but all I am seeing is faces. I don't see slides,
Well,
No
you
matter which option you click.
no matter which option.
Wow.
You can
I'm going
slide
to sign
over,
out and come back in.
you can
That usually
slide
helps fix
over
things.
the window that has the faces in it to minimize it, to make it smaller, and that makes the slides bigger.
There's a little tiny bar, a little vertical white line next to the faces, maybe.
There's
The
Yeah.
not.
kind that
I have
doesn't,
three
yeah.
dots in the upper corner,
Wow.
and it says view profile, chat, and pin are the. I'm going to sign out and dial back in. Bye.
Okay.
If worst comes to worst, it's recorded.
And I think she's on a phone and it may have a different display screen. I'm not sure.
Ah, okay. Should I go on then?
Please.
Okay. These are. Is my cursor showing as it moves?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is Galanthus elwesi, the giant snowdrop variety monostictus, which means it only has one little green blotch. And then they're calling these early bloomers the Himalis group, the of the winter group. These up until last year bloomed reliably. The week of Thanksgiving. Last year they bloomed 3 weeks early, and this year they're nearly 5 weeks early. I don't know what's going to happen. They may know something. They give me 2-to-1 increase. This was some years. No, this is 23. So these are just the earliest. And when it's a cold year and the bees aren't flying, these flowers will last until the new year. If the bees get them, however, what's going to happen is the flower will fade and the bulb will go to seed. It's a win-win situation as far as I'm concerned. These give me, as I said, about 2-to-1 increase. Then we come into January itself, New Year's Day. This is the earliest daffodil I'm aware of, Reinfeldt's early sensation. In a warm December, it will bloom on the new year. Brookside Gardens has had it as early as Christmas. If December is not warm, there's no telling where that bloom time is going to last, anywhere from January all the way through to March. Here you can see the right-hand picture is New Year's, the left-hand picture is February. This is one, and I confess my crimes. I stole this picture and the text from John Sheeper's bulbs, and I figured I was allowed to because I bought some. This is January silver. It is an offspring of Reinfeldt's early sensation. I'm hoping that it has the same bloom time. We come into the Owisi monostictus, what I call the New Year's clone, because that's when it comes up and blooms. Again, aside from this year when they came up early this month, last month. They start blooming low to the ground, but then they rise. These again give you 2-for-1 increase per year. I have taken this clump and divided it out at least 4 times in the years that we've been here in the house. Lindy Wilson gave me some clumps, a clump of snowdrops with a pleated foliage. I'm not sure what they are. They don't do quite as well. And I'd like to point out here that your very expensive snowdrops don't do well. Hell, if they did, they'd be cheaper. I'm not all that fond of having every snowdrop that was ever propagated as being different. This, by the way, you can see, look at my cursor. This is not Owisi monostictus because there are 2 marks. And I'd just like to point out, look at these. There is a snowdrop out there called Grumpy, and it's expensive. And because it shows a grumpy face, heck, these did it for free. This is Galanthus nivalis of the snows is what it means. It's later than Owisi. It normally blooms in February for me. It is just as good a doer. These have been in place either 3 or 4 years, I forget which, but when I planted them 6 inches apart as single bulbs. And while we're talking about planting apart, you do not want to move snowdrops when you move your regular bulbs. You want to wait about 2 to 3 weeks after the flowers fade, dig them up while they're still green. Snowdrops do not like having their roots disturbed or dried out. What you do is you dig the whole clump, then you plant them out as onesies by simply digging your trowel into the ground, wedging it open, put a bulb or 2 bulbs in, push the ground back. After a while, you've done, oh, say 3 or 4 feet of row, come back and water with the starter fertilizer. That's all the more you want to do to them. Absolutely leave them alone. They know what they're doing better than we do. And if you have to move something and you know you're going to be an hour, 2 hours, put a wet cloth over them. They will thank you for it. Here's a double snowdrop. I'm not all that fond of it. I can't tell you what species because it came labeled double snowdrop in the package. You have to hold it up to see that it is double, but it's still a pretty little thing if you know where it is and you choose to look it up. There are various doubles out there. There are also snowdrops that have golden markings, golden whatever you call them, seed ovaries up top. It's not anything that really justifies $60 and $70 a pop.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes.
I've noticed that you are doing your plantings either in front or behind like a berm. Does that
Yes.
help with the growth of these galanthus that you're showing us? To have them planted like that in
Okay. That comes later in the talk, but it's as good here.
Oh, okay.
They tell you to plant snowdrops. They tell you to plant daffodils out in the lawn, and that's wonderful. except then you have to wait till the foliage dies down. I plant the snowdrops in a very thin line outside of my flower beds in the walks, but only a little bit. I've still got a good 3 feet of walk left that the mower can come straight through. It looks ratty until the end of May, and in daffodils, it looks ratty until mid-June, but it works. That way you can mow your paths, mow your lawns, and still have your flowers.
I see.
Basically, the Aloisi snowdrops tend to come up. They have a lot longer period when the leaves are up, but oddly enough, they will wait to go down until almost but just before the daffodils, easily May. And what was I going to say about that? I'll think of it later. Sorry about that. Do plant them as onesies because they clump up so nicely.
I have rivers of Elwacii that I've planted in a long S curve around a stump and then through other things. And I planted them 5, 6 inches apart with a few of the blue and white muscari in amongst them and a few of the a few scilla. So it really does look like white water with little blue ruffles on the edges. And they go down by themselves. And each year when the flowers have faded, I lift the more crowded areas and provide another foot or so of river. It's very
Yeah.
easy.
Now let's go back here just a bit. Uh, Snowdrops tend to be very well placed in a deciduous woods under a deciduous shrub where they can get sun in the winter and early spring. Uh, Having said that, I've planted them in the full sun along one bed that gets full sun. And I've also found that they do very well in enriched soil, but these are out where I never enriched them outside of the beds in pure sheer clay, and they're happy as clams. Um, I can't tell you what I'm doing that's good, but whatever it is, it wasn't me. And the other thing is, snowdrops as a tribe tend to like a little bit of lime. I had snowdrops, they were doing well enough, and then the well diggers came and they had to go down 500 feet through limestone. And there was this river of lime dust uh, in the wash water that they were drilling with. And the snowdrops took off like big birds. So if you have a little bit of lime, do use it. This goes back to show you Reinfeld's early sensation daffodils again. Here it is you can't see where I'm gesturing, in March on the left, in February on the right. There's no telling. Their bloom time is all over the map. On the left, you see Eranthus, the winter aconite around it. We come to one of my favorite little darlings. This is Leucojum vernum, the spring snowflake. Now, snowdrops, unless you get a real double, have 3 outer petals that are long and 3 inner petals that are shorter. These have 6 petals, and they all have a dot of color on each petal. They start to bloom the instant the bud clears the ground, and then they get up to about 5 inches. These do well for me. I've tried giving some away. This particular one has yellow spots, yellow-green spots, which Jim McKinney thought was some sort of rare bird. Here you can see on the left one of mine with the yellow spots, and then here is on the right is supposed to be the type. I got this from Wojciech Holubek in the Czech Republic, and it was supposed to be a double. I'm not going to tell him that it isn't. Just happy to have it. And again, they come out of this sheath, and snowdrops have this sheath too, and so do daffodils, that protects it, but they come out a little bit, um, well, they're still down at the ground, but they come out a little bit higher than mine. 3 weeks later, when the spring snowdrops, we get the summer's, I'm so snowflakes, we get the summer snowflakes. So why they're calling it summer, I don't know, because this is late March, early April.
Maybe that's when they bloom in Britain.
That's possible. This clump has been separated out into happy families at least twice since I've had it. They're another bulb that takes no guff, and they make good cut flowers too. I can't bring myself, by the way, to cut my snowdrops. We start into the hoop petticoat daffodils, and those who go up to Gettysburg Gardens will see that John has quite a few different types and hybrids in his bulb house. He won't let go of a single one of them, dread it. They don't take rock garden conditions, but you need to have them in a rock garden because that's the only place they won't get smothered out. They are supposed to like a rich soil. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But these were the first year after I planted them, and these are those tiny little um, uh, annual dianthus. So you get an idea of the size of them.
Jim, have you ever tried the hoop petticoats like in a display pot to get
I
them
have
up?
not, but they should be easy enough. They will need a winter chill.
Right.
But
No, I'm thinking a display patio pot that stays outside all year,
mm,
just to get them up.
I could try that. I have a couple of tulips that seem to be surviving when I did that. Um, these are the single farmhouse daffodils that were here when we got. I don't know the species or the type. I suspect they are Tenby daffodils, which are a species and old as the hills. And then on the right is the double form that may or may not be the old cultivar Van Sion. They are hardy as rocks. I don't have a photograph, but there are some of the doubles coming up in the middle of our lawn. And they were there because they were in the soil that got spread over the lawn by bulldozer, and they survived. So they take no guff from anybody. If you see in the woods or along a roadside a clump of daffodils, you can be sure that there was a house or a garden there at one time, and the garden is gone, but the daffodils have survived. When this happens, you'll find that they've dug themselves down, at least the doubles here, have dug themselves down to almost a foot deep. If you dig something up from that depth, for the good Lord's sake, don't plant them that deep. Plant them at a normal height for daffodils or a little shallow. Otherwise, they'll sulk and or croak. I've said that before. These aren't named, I mean, they were named when I bought them. I'm not going to throw variety names at you. I am going to mention that there is a classification out there that divides daffodils into 12 groups. I do not like that classification. It's totally artificial as far as I'm concerned. The only thing I like about it is the one group that says these are the rush-leaved, and the one group that says these are species and hybrids within the species. What I do recommend is when you have the space and you're in the catalog and you see a daffodil you like, um, get it. Try to get one or two new ones a year, but you can cheat here because if you don't want to buy 5 or 10 of something to see if you like it, especially if it's expensive, go to some place like Merrifield that has a good bulb display. you'll find them sold as single bulbs, and the price for a single bulb will be twice what a single bulb would be in the catalog. But you only have to buy one of them because in this climate, they will increase, they will multiply, they will be happy as clams unless you do something stupid like park on them. This will give you an idea. The photo on the right, and don't laugh because David Culp has bulbs in what looks like a gravel parking area. And I suspect if anybody ever parked on them, he would have their heads, but I have to admit they're pretty. This on the right shows you what the bulbs can do, what they can put up with. These Jim McKinney had bought the autumn before he died, and when he went when he fell and went into the rehab place, he told his sister, just throw them into the fridge, they'll be fine. And then he died. Well, come late January, his sister said, do you want these? And I said, heck yeah. And I potted everything except some bulbs that I didn't think would make it uh, in pots, let them settle in, grow roots for about a week, and then put them outside. And this is what they did. This is just one batch of them. There were other batches off to the right. Amaryllids will do amazingly well with mistreatment. More late March daffodils. Late March again to the left is 17 Sisters or Avalanche, depending on who you talk to. And depending on who you talk to, it's not all that old. And other people will say Jefferson had it. Yeah, okay. So who do you believe? Daffodils come in single cups, split cups, small cups, multiple blooms. There's all sorts of colors. The only color I haven't seen is blue or purple. More daffodils. On the right, you've got white lion on the upper and wheat liu on the bottom, and they're supposed to be the same plant. Wrong-o. You can't always depend on what you're told, even when it's in print. Just roll with it and smile. This was the first spring after I planted the Hesperides terraces. After a while, they will clump up. You can see things starting to clump here. There. These are early April daffodils. I had the this is being recorded sign blocking the. Again, just to show you what's possible. These over here were teeny tiny. I'm fond of putting things in rocks, between rocks. Hang on. I don't know. Oh, you and your double-dreaded. Yeah, this goes the wrong way from. I don't know what I'm doing. Hang on.
Yeah, I can see you flipping through slides fairly quickly. I'm not sure where you intend to be.
I have. Okay, so towards me. Dan's mouse goes differently from. Here we go. This is where I was. Then this. The next one is Thalia, which I dearly love. It's a triandus. It's very sweet scented and it will take a bit of shade. Again, all daffodils prefer to have sun on their leaves until the leaves die down, but some are a little more tolerant of shade than others. Here again, mid-April daffodils, and you can see I've put them outside my rock wall. This will just be unmowed until the leaves die down, but most of my lawn is still fine. Late to April again, more late April. Pheasant-eye daffodil, or pheasant-eye type, I should say, in late April, and then one daffodil, and I don't know what it is, made it to early May with me. And on the right hand is an amaryllis relative that I don't know that I still have after this winter. This was a piastrum. It was rated zone 7 when I got it at Big Bloomers. It's planted deeply. It made it through 2 winters. I live in hope. Then in May, we start to get into the crinums. This is Crinum bulbospermum, and you can tell bulbospermum because the leaves have a bluish cast to them. Now, crinums are huge. They're hulking monsters. A crinum bulb can get as big as a grapefruit. The leaves come up late as opposed to most other bulbs. Usually it's late April, early May before they start. They'll come up first, and then the flower scapes will come after. The foliage will last all through the season. I'm going to flip forward just a second. The other forward. You can look on the right-hand column. These are normal size bricks down there, so you can see what an established clump of crinums will do for you. And you want to put crinums, I'm doing it again. You'll have to bear with me. I don't know why this is working. So anyway, you want to put crinums in a place where you will never have to move them. If you think you will have to move them, you want to make sure to dig down at least 2 feet and amend very, very heavily. And the reason is they have incredibly strong perennial roots. They'll dig themselves down to China just in the bulbs alone. And the roots, if they get a good hold on the clay subsoil, you will not move them except with excavating equipment. If Chris is online, Chris Herbstrand is online, when we did that Tacky Park garden rescue, he and I spent something like 3 hours digging out a clump of crinums. We had to go in from the side, dig a bomb crater, and go in. When I helped Pete Jones in PVC dig up and separate a clump of crinums, I had the sense to bring a tarp because we had to dig a bomb crater, and we would have totally ruined his front lawn if we hadn't put the earth on a tarp. And Pete says, well, I'm just going to plant Mama again. And his wife, who was the German war bride, a little lady and took no guff from anybody, comes out on the front porch and she says, you're not going to plant that monster again. It takes over. If you have the space, well and good. There are dwarfer crinums that you can buy. I haven't tried them. As I get older and the ground and I have less and less in common, I like the larger ones. Crinobulbospermum, back to this particular plant, is a variable species. You can get some that are washed with pink, some that are pink striped like this, some that are pure white. At least this is what I am told. This is White Queen. And the interesting thing is that they curl. The petals curl. And it's pretty. And I should mention that an established clump of crinums like this, they're food hogs, they're water hogs, they're sun hogs, but they'll also put up with a lot of guff. And where they're happy, they will have multiple bloom flushes. This is Crinum Powley album. Powley is now they believe it's not a species, that it's a hybrid between Bulbospermum and Murray. For what that's worth, it's a very good white. It's a little smaller than White Queen. This is one that I got from people in Carolina, just labeled milk and wine, and it was a pass along from Alabama, so I wasn't expecting it to be hardy. And I was expecting to need lots of TLC, but it's planted right by the concrete setting of an arbor post. It doesn't get any water except what God gives it. It's in a restricted root run, and it's doing its thing. Now it's striped, that's why they call it milk and wine. It's striped like that Crinum you saw, but it doesn't have any of the green, the blue in the foliage, so it's a different animal altogether.
Jim, milk and wine is the one of the varieties that Henry Mitchell, the Earthman back from the Washington Post, he used to wax episodic about that particular crinum. It was something that he brought along from his home in Mississippi to grow in his Washington garden.
Oh, good. So then it is reliably hardy. Well,
Yes.
reliably hardy for you down there is a different animal from reliably hardy for me. Uh, this is Crinum Powley. The other was album, which means white. I'm putting this in. It's doubtfully hardy. It's probably hardy for you. This is the what they used to call Ismene. And it's a daffodil-sized bulb. You plant it out like a daffodil in the spring. It blooms, it sends out leaves that stay all summer. You dig it up in the fall. And for years, I've been doing this. Every so often, I would leave one or two bulbs out, and they always croaked. But winter before this, I left one out by accident, and it came back. So there is hope. I'll let you know if it comes back this spring, and if it does, I'll start planting out mass quantities.
But that was a mild winter.
It was a mild winter.
We've already had colder weather than we did last year.
Oh, yeah. But this also is now, it's an established large bulb. It's probably dug itself down to where it wants to dig. And it's in a southern exposure, so I'm hopeful. This is another doubtfully hardy. This is a Hymenicalis. Uh, It may be the species that they call hardy here, but I do not know. I was given it as a pass along and unlabeled, just with the little tidbit of information that it was supposedly descended from a bulb given to President Madison. It's in the greenhouse and it's going to stay there until I have enough that hopefully, I can divide it and put one out. We get back to the crinums. This is, I think, Ellen Besanquet. It will give you an idea of the size. This is my Sarcococcus It's 4 feet high. And this is only in it because it flopped over. This is one that needs staking. This is one that doesn't. This is Alamo Village. It blooms in July. Very delicate flowers, a shade of pink, narrow petals. Crinum Powley album again in July. And then we start with the loves of my life, the ones that you can tune out the sound right now because I'm going to bore you simple. Lycoris. When I grew up, the only Lycoris I knew was the old naked ladies that usually would start budding the last week of July and bloom religiously the 1st of August. And these are them. They came from Japan somewhere, I think, in the 1870s. And then they've been passed along ever since. Oddly enough, it comes out that they aren't a species. They are a hybrid of Lycoris longituba and what they think is springery. And this is a triploid clone. So if you've ever wondered why this particular Lycoris never sets seed, now you know. Very, very easy to grow, very, very hard, as a matter of fact, to kill. They come up about 2 feet, yeah, about 2 feet. And they are one of the largest of the tribe. I'm doing it again. The next early one, this actually came up ahead of a squamigera this year, is Lycoris chinensis. Notice the narrow petals, the flaring blooms, and the ruffling on the petals. And you never know if you've got, oh, I should mention, yeah. You never know when you buy Lycoris chinensis or Lycoris aurea, what you've actually bought, because they're mixed in the trade.
Thank you. I was going to ask about that.
Lycoris chinensis is hardy. Lycoris aurea is not. The trick to tell them apart is that if it starts to leaf in the fall, it's aurea. Chinensis waits till the spring to send up leaves. And again, if it sends up leaves in the fall, for heaven's sake, dig it and put it in a pot, because the bulb itself is hardy enough, but the foliage is not. And if you put it where the wind whips it into rags, and this goes for any fall leafer, they can't nourish the bulb. Right now, I'm happy as a clam because we've got the snow cover covering all of my autumn leafing Lycoris. If the foliage gets whipped into rags, it probably won't bloom that year, but don't worry, unless you get 2 or 3 really nasty winters, the bulbs won't die, they'll just get knocked back. What you can do to save them is put them where the wind won't whip. They like winter sun, obviously, but the main thing is put them where the wind won't whip. If you have a sun trap, like our courtyard, for instance, that's a great place for them. You start to see all sorts of hybrids between Lycoris chinensis and Lycoris longituba. The more golden orange they are, the more deeper orange, and the more ruffling in the petals, the more chinensis they've got in the mix. These are closer to the longituba. You can see already it's almost a regular form, as opposed to the open form. Oh, here I am again. Hang on.
What's going on?
I am trying to, okay, here we go. You can see the differences. This is a dwarfer Lycoris. It's Lycoris sanguinea. It's the smallest species I know. It's also got ratty little flowers. The color is interesting, and it does set seed, and supposedly it hybridizes with the others. So one of these days, I'll see if there aren't any hybrids between, say, this and longituba, which would give me a bigger flower, but another color.
Jim, I call that delicate, not ratty.
Ah, okay. It
Since
is.
I have a pile of them, so bought them at Benke's, God knows, 20 some odd years ago. So I have a nice stand of them. So they're delicate, okay?
Okay. This, I just showed you what happens when you don't think about what you're doing. I put in the crinum, the 2 crinums, forgetting the Lycoris were there. And so now it's crowded beyond belief. And You can see another thing that's becoming the bane of my existence. Uh, all of these Amorphophallus. They're just spreading by runners. Allamore Village again. Ellen Besanquet in August. This is Lycoris longituba. It's a spring leaper. It has the flower shape that's more lily-like, more regular. It's almost as big as the squamidra. I figure it would be as big if I could ever get it uh, tetraploid or triploid. Um, I'm not fool enough to go messing around with colchicine on my own, but I should put it in the ear of somebody who does. I don't know who. Mixed golden lycoris again, and here you can see they take shrubby tree shade. So long as the leaves are in the sun when they're up, they flower just fine. Here are another two, and I'm going to show you, well, I'll show you a little later how hybrids happen. These two are growing between rocks. I did not put them there. They're different from each other, and I would never have put two different ones that close. These are seedlings. Again, mixed golden lycoris. Whoops. This is the first of the Lycoris radiata. Radiata is, in one clone, the old British soldiers that are a southern pass-along plant. This is radiata for bleh, give me a second. Variety Pumila. Got this from Arrowhead Alpines up in Michigan. This blooms about 2 weeks after the squamidra. It's the earliest radiata. It's also fertile, where the real pass-along British soldiers are not, and I'll mention that later. It has been, sorry, Chinensis ancestry again. We're back to the other Lycoris. This is what I call mystery Lycoris. A friend of mine in Ohio that I've never met, but he's an email friend, was in the Iris Society, and he flashed me a picture of this Lycoris. I said, "Hey, how do you like this?" And I say, "Give me that guy's address." And the guy lives in North Carolina, very near Montrose. He bought it from a mail order nursery in North Carolina, which I shall not name, as the bulb of Lycoris squamigera. And it came up and it did this. Thing is this streak of pink orange in the center migrates in the older bloom to out along the edge. Here you can see the clump pink along the edge, and this is one stem of it that came up late, so it's still not pinking yet. This is Lycoris springeri, and to be honest, I got Blue Pearl from Plant Delights, and this may be it. These two photos are the same blooms on the same day, but the left was taken in early morning, and the right one was taken at bright noon. Not only do they change with the light, but they also change from year to year. Sometimes they're a little bit darker, sometimes a little bit lighter. More like Horace Springery. This is more what I'm used to. And if you want to look, you can actually find tiny little flecks of blue in Lycoris squamigera. So this is, well, you can see, this is what they do.
Mine look much more like the right-hand photo. They're pink with touches of blue. I have 4 separate clumps obtained from 4 separate occasions, and none of them are as blue as yours.
You
I wonder
might
if it's lime, if it's acidity of the soil.
I don't know, probably so, because even if I don't lime, and I don't, maybe just a sprinkle on new snowdrops. I certainly don't lime my lawn, but our water is lime. Uh, then we come to another very good doer. Oh, springery is a spring leafer. You can plant it safely. This is Lycoris incarnata, the striped Lycoris. And it also is a spring leafer. It's a very good doer. Um, it's maybe 15 inches tall when it blooms. Um, I love it dearly. I got this, as I recall, from Plant Delights originally, and it died. And I got it from somewhere else. And then the story of my life. Every time something dies and I get it from somewhere else, the original clump comes back up. Oh, that reminds me. Lycoris, when they are mistreated, and I use that word in quotes because it may just be the bulb thinking it's mistreated, sometimes they will hit double dormancy. You plant them and they don't come up the 1 year, don't give up. They may come up the second year, especially if you've let the roots dry out.
I've had that problem with radiata. I planted a bunch in a clump and they didn't come up for 2 years. And I was complaining about it to Janet Draper, and she said, "Well, don't give up because they may come up after the 2 years of sulking." And they did. Sure enough, after the third year, they did come up.
And the other thing is they don't bloom reliably. It depends on something, I know not what, but a lot of the more exotic types uh, don't always bloom when you think they're going to. I just put this right-hand photo in to show that Lycoris don't have to take center stage at all times.
How deep do you plant those, Jim?
Say again?
How deep do you plant those?
Those which? The
Lycoris?
Euphorbius? The which?
The springery?
Uh, I planted them about 4 inches deep, and I don't know where they are now. Any Lycoris you plant, it's a good idea to plant it shallow. Trust me, it will dig itself down to where it wants to be.
Mm.
You consider 4 inches shallow?
Yes.
You've got all the soil then.
Well, you don't think for a minute that my beds have the soil that I inherited when I came here. I have been dumping compost and digging them down to 2 and 3 feet since the day I made them. Uh, I don't have, okay, there's a layer of good soil here, for instance. But all of this berm is artificial. Let's see. This bed dug down to 2 feet when I made it. This bed is dug down to 2 feet. This bed, this bed, this bed. Nope. The one east of our guest room is our most insane bed. The bulldozer came through and dug it out to 3 feet, and I spent most of a summer uh, filling it in with earth and compost. This shows you how hybrids happen. I have to assume that this was one parent and this was another, because these two are, as I said before, where I'd never plant them between two boulders. And they're different from each other and too close to each other. So they're seedlings. And this next year, once they die down, I will move these rocks, take them up, pray that they've multiplied, and plant them out as happy families somewhere. This, as I said, radiata variety pumila is fertile, so there's seed variation. This is the early variety. Then you start to get the Lycoris radiata hybrids in Japan. And I should mention, in Japan, they're a wildflower, and they are associated with death because they bloom right at the time that the Japanese have their festival for the dead. Japan and Korea, they'll go out and clear the family graves and offer to the ancestors and have a picnic out there. And these bloom at that time. So it's not saying when something comes up, when one of these comes up, that death is going to follow. It's just that, well, if something bloomed reliably on Memorial Day itself, we'd have that sort of association. These are different hybrids from Eden's blooms. They lost their labels years ago. Other radiata hybrids from Eden's blooms. You have to get them when they're offered. They only had a limited quantity, and I haven't seen them since. I should mention that if you're willing to pay the price, Plantalites has the largest collection of Lycoris cultivars in the country. And it is worth going down there in August to see their rose in bloom. And as I forget, Jeremy Schmidt said to me, we used to have the second biggest collection of Lycoris in the country, and then we bought the biggest. So, if you're willing to pay the price, every year they take 1 or 2 cultivars, 3 or 4, because they don't build up rapidly, and have them at extremely high prices. And every so often I say, no, I'm not going to do this. I've got to. And I buy. These are Lycoris LCI, again, from Eden's blooms. I'm going the other way again. Lycoris Coldwelly. This is the mid-season bloom of Lycoris, and thank God it's a good doer. I got this from Bobby Diebold, and I have no idea where she got it. It is fertile. I have no idea if it's setting seed ever. This is one I got from Chenyi in China before the Chinese government closed it down. Carol Allen might be blushing at this. She used to order from Chenyi because she had an import permit. Her last shipment came to her labeled tractor parts. So, she
True
was
that.
able to. And they collected from the wild. They had a big network of people collecting. And you never knew if something was going to be right or wrong. I figured, what the hell? It's all new to me.
Jim,
yes.
what's cool is that I do follow Tony Avent and all of the Lycoris. And now and again, he drops the word Chen Yi, something he got from Chen Yi. And I'm like, I have that, I think. So Tony too was buying tractor parts.
Yeah. But Tony had the sense that anything he bought, he planted out and flowered for at least a year to make sure that it was as advertised. And if it wasn't, then he had to beat feet and find out what it actually was. And they have done some wonderful, I'm hoping actually that someone there writes a monograph. They've done some genetic analysis, and I think they said it only comes down to 6 real species of Lycoris. Everything else is hybrids. I don't know. But I love it. You can see that this is the same clump. The pink fades as it gets older, but I love it at this form. And no, I can't bring myself to cut it.
I love the crenellation on the petals.
Yeah,
Very pretty.
and eventually I'll have enough to share. I do believe firmly, and you can stop licking your chops now, all of you, but I do firmly believe that the way to keep a plant is to give it away. So if something happens, and it has happened with me, um, not that it's an unusual plant, but I had Bulbine, um, and I spread it around, and then all of mine died because I neglected it, and I was able to get some back from a friend. Lycoris albiflora from Eden's Blooms again. Uh, this is the proof that proves the rule, because they shipped in July as dried bulbs. I planted them, and this is 1 month later. They're in bloom. But you notice, and again, the albiflora has that mini crinkling. So I'm guessing that it's related, but I don't know. I am not an expert. I do not claim to be an expert. Uh, Shoot me if I say I am one. This is again another of the yellow-white Lycoris, again from a friend. I have no idea what these are. The yellow-whites get mixed for me. I don't notice the small details. This is from Eden's Blooms. It's a radiata hybrid blushing lady. We'll come back to Lycoris in a minute. This is Amorcrinum. It's a cross between Amaryllis belladonna and Crinum muri. It blooms late, this September-ish for me. And it has leaves that come up again like regular crinums. This, as I recall, was Amorcrinum Fred Howard. I got it from Brendan Becky's. They still have Amorcrinum, but they aren't calling it Fred Howard anymore. So I don't know if they've just got a different stock or they found out that Fred Howard was wrong. Supposedly, there are pure white, pure pink Amorcrinums out there. I haven't seen them. I'd love to see them. Here's another flush of the milk and wine crinum in mid-September. Then in September, Sternbergia lutea comes up. Imagine a yellow crocus on a daffodil stem, and you've pretty well got it. Maybe 9 inches tall. I tried it for years and it would sputter out. And then I finally found the right place. It's going gangbusters. This is a fall leafer. These are September photos. The leaves are already up. They'll stay through the winter. I like them, among other things. They give a bit of leaf color in the winter.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
I heard someplace, and you can collaborate that. The way to get them to bloom is to have them have a dry summer. And I think that I get that when we have a dry summer, which normally isn't very often, I have more Sternbergia in the fall blooming, but I don't know. Maybe have you noticed any correlation?
I noticed that this bed usually doesn't get watered at all. There is a hose bib there, but I'm lazy. These came from Brent Becky's, I know that much. There used to be a lady from a local Virginia nursery, and I don't remember the name, that came every fall show at Green Spring, every fall plant sale, and had them in a basket, and you could pick your own bulbs for $1 a bulb, which wasn't really a bad price. it was not much different from Brent and Becky's. Of course, that's then, this is now. But Brent and Becky's bulbs have worked well for me. What else was I going to say about that? Can't think now. This is the old pass along Lycoris radiata, variety radiata, the old British soldiers. And this came sort of from Lynn Tidal. She said, hey, I've been in touch with this lady down in Alabama, where they're, basically been there for years and years and years. She sent me some, and I sent her this, that, and the other in return. So and gave me her information. So I said, fine, and I got in contact with me. She sent me a box of 200 bulbs. Uh, not all of them did I plant. A lot of them went to plant exchanges. A couple went to plant sales. This comes, it's a fall leafer like the others. It's the last of the Lycoris. We're talking late September. You might get a straggler early October. But in October, you get Queen Olga snowdrop. Now this, I'm very happy to say, is so far a good doer for me. I've tried Queen Olga from a couple of sources. They did not work. And then I got this 2 years ago from Phil Normandy, who got it from Edith Edelman, who presumably got it from Montrose. And then back to the Montrose Galanthus monostictus that bloom in November. That's the entire year. And bother.
I've planted the Queen Olgas twice now. Once from Brent and Becky's, and I don't remember, the other was just from, I think, from Merrifield. And they've never done anything for me, so
Jim,
they
I
may have
really,
been too dried out.
Jim, I really like the way that you planted these bulbs. I mean, you planted them in ways where they look almost like they've naturalized, and it also keeps them out from underfoot so you don't have people accidentally stepping on them.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
because that's a problem I have, that same thing that you mentioned about sticking your trowel in the ground to try to plant something and you spear one of your plenty expensive bulbs. But that's really, I really like the photos. That's a really good idea, I think.
thank you. Now, oddly enough, the spring snowdrops have naturalized, and they have gone berserk in our lawn in several places, to the point where I'm worried that I can't keep them from the fall snowdrops, and if ever they mix, I'm in deep trouble. Because I want to keep the fall ones in a mass planting. That is the end of my talk, but just for jollies, I've got a couple of non-hardy amaryllids. I haven't shown you, I'm not showing you the florist's amaryllis, no. This is Hemanthus. I got this, as I recall, I'm in trouble, from Aaron Floden, who's now at the Missouri Botanic Garden. I call it Beaker, if anybody remembers Beaker from the Muppet Show. And it doesn't bloom reliably for me, but it lives well enough.
That's so interesting.
This is Lycoris aurea. It's a beautiful gold as opposed to the bronze gold of the chinensis, of the straight chinensis. But you can see it's in the ground in my greenhouse, and it also does well in pots in the greenhouse. You cannot grow it hardy out here yet. It's supposedly rated zone 8. Again, remember, if it leaves in the fall, bring it in. It is not hardy here. It is aurea. If it leaves in the spring, it's chinensis and it's happy as a clam. This is Amaryllis belladonna in the greenhouse. Now, I have no idea if it really is Amaryllis belladonna or if it is, as I have heard, an Amaryllis brunswickia hybrid, as most of them in the trade now are. You can see there is a lot of variation in the bulbs that I got. I got a mixed bag. Eden's Bloom sells them now, but he's selling bigger bulbs at bigger prices. I got this from Bill the Bulb Baron in California, and he's long dead now. And I ordered, I forget what, 15 bulbs, and I got 27. He said, "Yeah, they weren't as big as I thought, so I thought I'd make up this way." I'm not complaining. And then the last of my slides. This is Eucharis. It's supposedly an easy plant, maybe so in a Victorian conservatory. I've had it for 15 years, and this is the first time it bloomed, and the only time it bloomed. You can see it was 21, and my pot got to go back, so there's only one bulb in it now. But it is a beautiful thing. And that is it, and I'll ask for questions. Oh, by the way, aside from that one January silver, here's the photographer, my own nearest and dearest Dan.
Who did not
So,
want to be in the picture.
questions?
I might be interested in getting some catalogs. Is there any way that I could get names of some of these nurseries that you mentioned?
Sure.
Yeah, I've been planting more and more bulbs. I think I used to kind of ignore them. I was more interested in bigger things, and now that my garden's pretty well established, I'm finding these little things to be much more interesting than I used to.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start out with the larger bulbs like daffodils also have smaller bulbs with them. I recommend Van Engelen and Sheepers, Scheepers. They're the same company. The one deals in bigger quantities than the other. I recommend Brent and Becky's. A lot of times they'll have little weirdnesses that pop up one year and you never see them again. I do recommend Eden's Blooms. One word, Eden's Blooms. There is the Southern Bulb Company, which I think is expensive. There is Arrowhead Alpines up in Michigan. I don't know what it would cost to ship. I tend to go up there visiting Dan's family. Let's see, what else?
You can post a list.
Plant Delights. I will post a
Yeah.
list. Sometimes it's just knowing somebody and seeing it in their garden and saying, "Huh." The better whimper you can develop, the more you're likely to get. And I'd like to point out when you're asking for a piece of something, always offer to buy it, because then they'll probably turn around and give it to you. Whereas if you expect it as a gift, they'll say, "We'll think about it."
Oh, Jim, you were talking about bulbine and how sharing plants with your friends was the best way to preserve it.
Uh-huh.
I found a hardy one at High Country Gardens, so he rated Zone 6, and I've had it in the ground now for 4 years, and it's come back every year just fine. Every plant that I planted from these tiny little plugs that I got from High Country Gardens has survived and is growing and spreading. So it gets a little better every year. It's really a great plant. It's Bulbine abyssinica, and it comes from South Africa in the mountains somewhere. I'm not exactly sure if it's the Drakensberg or somewhere else, but it's instead of having the orange flowers, it's got little yellow ones on it.
Well, there always has been, even with the non-hardy yellow bulbine out there. Um, are you growing this in a regular bed, or are you growing this in your instant drainage berm?
It's actually, well, it's in very good drainage. It's I have a south-facing bed that has got agaves in it, and the agaves are planted in a mostly gravel type of soil. It's gravel and humus and a little bit of clay. And I put the bulbines in front of them, so they have the same kind of. It's really not very good soil. It's hard pan gravel, and it's rather lean, and it does tend to dry out rather quickly. So, but it seems pretty happy. I don't know if you give it better soil, it might do better.
My guessing is if I gave it better soil, it would rot right out. I can't keep Delosperma for that reason.
Yeah, well, I have the same problem with Delosperma. That I've tried, trying to grow them over rocks. They seem to do slightly better than if they're on the ground, but there's something about the winter wetness they don't like.
I suspect that if I grew them in gravel and I've got a pile of gravel and I'm not about to do anything with it, uh, and let them just root down through it until they found something they liked, that they might live, but I'm getting too old to care.
Yeah.
Right now, I know that the amaryllids, the lycoris, do very well for me, and I'm just inclined to stay now with what I know I can do well. I know that's a cop out, but I've I've been through a bit, and it's to the point where I don't mow my own lawn anymore. I'm so ashamed. Uh, what can I say? So, any other questions?
Yeah,
Comments?
Lycoris squamigera grows really, really well for me, but I have not successfully grown radiata. Um, and then I haven't tried it for some years, but is it less hardy?
Uh, no, put it where it's got winter sun. Remember, all of the radiatas and their hybrids are fall leafers. The leaves have to stay up and get sun through the winter. Uh, they are in the same amended soil that all of my other lycoris are in, and they don't seem to do badly. Uh, on the other hand, that was when I amended when I first dug the beds, and I haven't really done much since. A little bit of compost on top when I think about it, which is not even every year. Basically, find a good place and leave it alone, and it'll be happy as a clam. I will say that we get more than enough usual winter wet, and let them dry out in the summer. I certainly don't water the beds that they're in.
Thanks.
Jim,
Yes,
some of my crinums are sending up multiple stalks through the summer now. I think you had a slide on that, but I
yes.
missed most of it. Is that just age or is it anything I can encourage?
It is a function both of the size of the bulbs, the individual bulbs, and the size of the clumps.
Hmm.
Give them a bulb food, give them water during the growing season, and that's all the encouragement they need. Just leave them alone. Don't over fertilize, because I worry a little about this. I know that they're in the same family as the Florist amaryllis, and they say those need a restricted root run. They do not necessarily want to be overfed. Whether or not this is the truth, I don't know. God knows your crinums and mine do not have a restricted root run. But basically, how many bulbs are in that clump, how big the clumps are, how much oomph they've got to flower.
So I don't think I've ever fed them except Neil brings horse manure now and then when I'm not looking. Um, is that a spring thing, like when they first start to come out, or when would you
Yeah,
do that? Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, and the other thing with crinums, crinum foliage, the minute the frost hits them, the minute the winter cold hits them, it'll flop down to the ground. It dries out in place. Leave it in place
Mhm.
because that protects the bulb from winter wet. Then about April, you just grab the crinum by the neck and cut the tip of the neck off.
Oh,
You don't have to cut each individual leaf, just come up to the neck where it's narrowest and snip. And that allows the new foliage to come through, and you don't have the bother of having to go into every leaf and worry. Because for the most part, if new foliage starts to come through and you cut, then it looks sort of ratty at the cut end. The
Mhm.
leaf will keep coming out. There's no problem there, but it looks a little ratty as opposed to that delicate little point.
Mhm. Thanks.
Jim, we are getting lots of thanks in the chat, and I know we're over quite a bit, and I want to respect people's
Oh,
time.
sorry.
No, this has been wonderful, and it's so great to have a member of our own club, and you in particular, speak. So we'll have to do this more often. And we will be starting all future meetings, not talks at 7:15 for chit chat and 7:30 for the official talk. And I want to thank everybody who participated today. Jim or anyone else, do you have any final closing words? All right. Thank
I
y'all
wanted
so
to
much.
mention one thing to Jim because I wonder if anybody else has had this experience. I like to force narcissus, and when they look really bad at the end of the season, Neil puts them in the garden, which I thought was nuts. But we had several clumps of them in November and bloom
Oh,
this year.
yes. Oh, yes.
Climate change's got some nice treats in it.
Generally speaking, are you talking the paper whites here?
Yeah, paper
yeah.
whites. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. They may or may not live through the winter. Um, but what happens is if you get your dry paper white bulbs and put them not in gravel, but in a pot of good soil and keep feeding and watering them until the leaves die down by themselves and then plant them, they do very well. And that's something that holds out with any daffodil. Uh, Even if you get them as well, I had an aunt that was bedridden, and for several years, we'd go to Home Depot and buy these little $3 and $4 tiny pots of tete-a-tete daffodils. And every week we'd go and buy a pot and swap out the ones that had bloomed out because her room was hot, and kept them here and planted them out when it came time. And they do very well. They take about a year to recover, uh, but they do very well. Any daffodil will do that, no matter how bad it's mistreated, if it's alive at all, except the ones like the paper white that will not take our winters very well. Uh, uh, they'll recover nicely.
The other thing is that they don't always tell you is it's very possible to dig daffodils in bloom and separate them,
Yes.
plant back a third of the clump, and put the others elsewhere or give them away. Every year in the spring, late spring, I do that. And each year it's a different set of clumps. And it's one way that I keep my clumps from getting overwhelmingly large or overwhelmingly dense. And I just basically give them away. There's no market for them. So if y'all are lacking ice follies or the basic farmhouse daffs or Seven Sisters, come see me in the spring. I have lots.
And the other part to that is that you see exactly what you're doing. You see exactly what bulbs are there. You again, you don't hear that sickening crunch when your shovel bisects a bulb.
Or if you do, in my case, there's so many it doesn't matter.
Ooh, wasteful, wasteful.
You can have the broken ones.
When you cut a bulb in half, if there's a piece that has a part of the basal plate planted shallow, it may yet recover. It'll take a couple of years to do it, but if it comes up at all, it will recover. Yes. If you have to dig a crinum, go down, dig a hole to the side of the clump and come in under. Because if you try to lever a crinum bulb out of the ground, it will, here's the roots and the basal plate, and here's the bulb. The bulb will snap directly off the basal plate. The base plate may live, the bulb will not. You have to have a piece of basal plate.
And the sound of the gardener yelling at you isn't too pleasant.
I once asked Jenks Farmer about that because I just found them to be an incredible pain to dig up. Eventually, you know, you don't want to have the same thing or leave it forever. And in my case, I have a small garden, so the clump was getting, it got large, about the size of 2 bathtubs, and it was really overdue for me to dig it up. His rule of thumb,
You want to dig it now then.
yes, dig it in the late winter or early spring, and
Usually March.
yeah, and don't leave them for more than 3 or 4 years. If they do, then they start to get massive, and it's too much of a chore.
That is gospel truth for a small garden. If you have the space, do leave them, because the more massive the clump is, the better it'll bloom, and the more repeatedly it'll bloom.
Sure.
That said, I'll never move my clumps again. I have no intention of digging up railroad ties and 3 feet of brick walk to separate a clump again. As I said before, when the Four Seasons rescued that garden in Tacoma Park, Chris Herbstreit and I spent the better part of 2 hours between the two of us. I mean, with both of us, digging that dirt clump out.
Thanks to Olivia for organizing and running this thing.
The credit goes to Barclay, who puts it all together. Thank you all so much for attending, and thank you, Jim, for presenting. I'm
You're
going to go
welcome.
ahead and.
I'm sorry I went over. When I practiced, I was right on an hour.
Well, everybody
No
had
problem.
such good questions.